Okay.
Like, to me, it just seemed like any of them would be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was awful because,
Yeah, I agree.
like I said, I read it and then I had no idea, like, what on earth did I just read, you know?
I felt the same way, especially not even
I
quite so much on this one. This one I did, but that first one that we had to read about the recruiting and good times and bad, I felt
Oh,
like
yeah.
that was very wordy. That was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
that's okay.
I thought they were all good candidates, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree.
it's hard to choose two of them.
Okay, now it says we're supposed to go through each of the 4 candidates and discuss why people on your team would or would not hire them.
Okay.
So we kind of already talked about that, but we can go through them. With Natalia, very well qualified, and she was good at it. She'd already been doing it for a while. But that she was uncomfortable around other people and making small talk, and the accent. Did you guys pick up on any of the other good or bad things about Natalia?
Yeah, I didn't think in an analyst position. I just thought, it's not super necessary for you to be an outgoing person. So
That's true. That's a really good
I
point.
just,
Yeah.
I just thought that's not a very solid complaint against her. I didn't think so.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, Martin Street. He was the military guy. So, and I think if I remember, yeah, he said he pretty much had no business experience, but a lot of leadership experience.
Yeah.
So, how do you think that would work out?
Um, I I think it would work out well. I mean, just because everything, just like the first rating was talking about, like people when they recruit rely a little bit too heavily on their past experience rather than their attributes. And I think Martin has really solid attributes because of his, and even though his experience isn't um, directly relatable, he's going to be able to take those attributes he's developed and do well at SG Cowan. So
Yeah, that's
that's my
true.
opinion.
What do you think, Shalina?
Yeah, I think he'd easily be trained for what he didn't already know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, on the tasks themselves. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's true. All
Yeah.
right. Oh, I remember one thing about him though. Was he the one that had been to a lot of recruiting events? Yeah. And he
Yeah.
hasn't accepted any offers. So that would be kind of a concern.
I thought about that too. The
Maybe
only
he's just looking for
reason,
just the right fit.
yeah, um, I don't see that as a huge negative either, because if you offer him the job and he doesn't take it, is it, I don't know, I just don't see that as the end of the world.
Yeah.
So,
And they already figure into their numbers they were going to offer a certain amount of people knowing that less people would take the job. So they kind of already figure that in. So
yeah,
it'd be worth it because maybe for him it's a good fit and he would do it.
yeah.
All right, so Ken Goldstein, he's the one that had worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers before and been a manager, so that's good. But he's older. I mean, not old, but he already has a family, and that was really their only concern, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But like you had said before, Nate, you don't feel like that's really a concern.
No, I went to New York a year and a half ago, and we met with a lot of investment bankers, and most of them had families. So I don't, from my personal experience, I just don't see that as a reason not to hire someone.
Okay.
I don't think it's a reason not to hire someone, but like in the paper, it was saying, is he really going to want to work 24/7? You know, be available 24/7.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think that can be an issue with a family, but I guess if his family's okay with it, then I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how I would do if I were in the family necessarily.
Yeah. His
I,
wife would definitely have to be on board 100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have a friend, well, a brother of a friend that's an investment banker, and he has a wife, no kids, but he was working 120 hours a week, and
Wow.
I just wondered, how does the wife even? It's like she's not married, I bet, you know.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So yeah,
Wow.
but I know a lot of people do it. So
That's nuts. How does he even sleep?
they hardly sleep.
Wow.
So,
Wow. All right. So the last one was Andy Sanchez, and he's the one that's getting his MBA at USC, got his undergrad at UCLA, and started his own business. So we kind of already talked about him a lot, but they liked his enthusiasm. Oh, and another thing I forgot too that they really liked about him is that he was well informed about the firm already. So he had done his own homework, which so shows, that he's really interested. And then
yeah,
just his bad grades from college.
yeah. I I agree with your assessment on him. Like, I think in most situations, you don't necessarily want to look past bad grades and just be like, oh, he had bad grades, but oh well. Because really, that can show a lack of drive, or a lack of um, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't
Ambition.
know. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, ambition, drive, discipline. That's what I'm
Oh,
looking
yeah.
for.
Discipline. Yeah.
So you don't want to just look past that, but the fact that he was starting his own business, I mean, it's more understandable that, oh yeah, that's why he had bad or lower grades, and he still managed to pass even though he was super busy.
Yeah. That's so true. So true. Yeah. Okay. The next one says, what other information would be useful when making this decision?
Um, Good question.
They give some suggestion questions. They said, what else would you want to know about the type of person who can succeed at SG Cowan? It's kind of a weird question because, I mean, that's basically, that kind of is the question. Like, what else would we need to know about a person that would be successful there?
Yeah, exactly.
And then it also asks, what
I have
else
no
would you
idea.
want to know about the candidates?
I didn't really see anything about them going over their availability. Are they
Oh,
all available 24/7?
right. Are they willing to
Yeah,
relocate if
Yeah.
necessary? Yeah, that's
yeah. Are they
true.
flexible?
Right. Yeah. And then it asks, how would you get that information? I guess now that the interview is over, are they meaning that?
Just call and ask them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's
Maybe
true.
ask their references about their experience with them
Oh, yeah.
in those areas.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next part, and it says that it's called the interview process. And it asks this question: why is there so much disagreement between the senior bankers in the Saturday meeting about which recruits to hire?
People have different opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they probably ask different questions, right? Because remember, aren't they all just in a room like for half an hour by them, with that one person, or in pairs or something like that?
I
So
think they
Yeah.
like interviewed separately by
yeah,
each person.
it would almost be better. Well, okay, it asks, is it partly because of the interview process? So I guess we're already saying yes. And is it partly because of the types of interview, which is kind of the same thing? So yes. But I think it would almost be better to have the group all together and one candidate in there with them all together. Or maybe two different groups, or I don't know, but it seems like it needs to be more streamlined. Because then
Yeah, I don't
maybe
know.
I'm going to ask a different question that you guys hadn't thought of, but you're interested in the answer. And if you're not asking it in your interview, then it's going to influence your answer if you didn't know that. Does that make sense?
One thing like that comes to my mind is, so interviews I've been to, if it's one person interviewing me, I'm way more comfortable than when there's 5 people sitting in front of me interviewing. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, and I think they did talk about that. You're right.
so their answers might be, you know what I mean? So if they're like totally uncomfortable, their answers I think would be different than when they're
That's
just
true.
comfortable.
So maybe instead of changing the process, like as far as how they conduct the interviews, they can have streamlined interview questions or something, maybe. Maybe
Yeah.
they
I don't
can
know.
meet as a team before and discuss a group of questions to ask them all, and they ask the same questions.
I kind of think it's good how they all have like such different opinions because they're looking at it from different point of view.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I just think, of course it makes it harder for them to pick someone, but
Right.
I think it's good for you to see each person's different point of view after interviewing them.
Yeah.
They did
Is
mention
it?
too that it's an exhausting process, so
Seems like it.
you're gonna
Yeah.
you might feel differently about someone that you interview early in the day versus later in the day.
Oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, definitely. That would happen.
So
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Like, what was the question? I don't even know what we're supposed.
Oh, we were just talking about how why was it so hard for them to
Oh,
agree
okay.
on who to hire, and then about the interview process. Is that why it was so hard? So then
yeah.
it says, might there be better ways to learn about the candidates than traditional interviews? What else might they try? Answers might include the following: have applicants demonstrate the ability to do certain job tasks, or have them spend a whole day with someone to see what the job is like, have them do internships, do the interviews, but focus on behavioral questions like tell me about a time when you disagreed with what your boss did, or have interviewers ask the same questions and evaluate applicants based on the same criteria. We kind of already talked about some of those.
Yeah. I think it would be good to have them demonstrate some job tasks as well as maybe not have a set list of questions, but train everybody about what sort of questions they should be asking so that
Yeah.
it's a little bit more uniform, but not
Yeah. I think
totally.
that's what this suggestion was. Remember, we read about the behavioral questions, and I
Hmm.
think that would tell a lot about a person because,
Yeah.
it's saying, tell me about a time when this happened to you and how did you react and how did it go and stuff like that. So that could be beneficial. All right, you guys have
I
anything else?
concur.
Perfect. All right, next question then. What are the criteria for choosing candidates at SG Cowan?
What are the criteria?
Yeah. I don't remember them going over anything specifically. Do you guys?
Not really. I mean, there was like the 3-year, like the people who were at what was it? Like they had been in the summer program or something.
Yeah.
And then there was like the group that, but there wasn't any like specific criteria, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Oh wait, hiring criteria. Oh, they had the grid sheets. Oh, that's right. Okay, it's at the back. It was the very last page of that. I remember it now. So one is commitment to the firm, judgment and maturity, interpersonal skills, leadership, technical skills, work ethic, and then an overall rating. That's right, I remember this now. Because I used the grid sheet. And then you mark on it outstanding, good, fair, unsatisfactory. And then your overall recommendation to hire or don't hire. Do you guys see that on the last page of the case study?
Yeah.
Is that like on the paper where they filled it out? Like,
yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. I thought they were good criteria.
Yeah, it seems.
I think they hit all the really important points.
Yeah, I think all the criteria is good. They should just maybe train on how to determine and make it a little bit more uniform on how they determine the criteria.
Like the questions they could ask or something?
Yeah, like train to, to figure out interpersonal skills. This would be a good question.
Yeah.
Ask them about this. Use the, what's it called? The event behavioral question or whatever.
Yeah. Behavioral questions. Yeah, that's a good idea. I do like how under a couple of the criteria, they broke it down even further into subgroups, because I think it's really important to recognize, okay, maybe creativity might be more important than modeling or whatever, I don't know. But so if somebody scores poorly in one of those, maybe that's not quite as important. It'd be better than somebody who scores mediocre in a lot, if that makes sense.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Next it says, how do senior bakers know what they are supposed to be looking for in a candidate? And how could this process be improved? I think we kind of just talked about that, where they could improve it by having questions they could ask to get the right answer for each criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I don't really have anything
Mm-hmm.
to say.
Oh, it is asking, are these good criteria? Do you feel like I'm not sure what they're trying to say here. They create a bias toward people. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to say there. All right, part 3.
What sort of bias?
I don't know. Okay, part 3 is going to talk about the school recruiting. So deciding which business schools to recruit at was controversial. Why was the choice of which schools to recruit at so important to S.G. Cowan?
If I remember right, it was controversial because they weren't necessarily recruiting at the very top schools.
Yeah.
But they found that recruiting at the goods, they're still recruiting at really great schools. But those schools aren't necessarily getting much attention from like the big bankers, like from Goldman Sachs or whatever.
Well, wasn't the point like they could get higher, like better people at the less super awesome schools because they weren't.
They could get the top of the class.
Yeah.
at the other
Yeah.
schools. So.
Yeah, they had better success with going to the good schools, but not the top 10, than they did
Yeah.
going to the top 10. Yeah. Okay, I think we just answered like the first few questions of that. Let me read over them real quick. Oh, would your son Shalina's in the background waving. Would it make sense for the company to recruit from other graduate programs like law or technology, and why or why not? So instead of just business
Maybe.
schools?
Depends on how much training they want to put into them, I guess.
Yeah.
It would give them more diversity.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
that's true.
So.
Yeah, definitely. That would be interesting, getting somebody from a law school to then want to work as an investment banker. But, like you said, they can bring a whole different skill set.
Yeah.
And same with technology too.
I think
And
it's
they could-
probably
It might
good.
give them it's probably a little bit riskier, but it might give them a competitive advantage because no one else is really doing that.
Yeah, especially with a technology school, because then those people are going to be trained and they're going to know which technology companies are good to invest in, and they can spot those better.
Totally.
All right. Should they change from the core school strategy now that it's an employer's market again? Meaning, like, should they go back to the top 10 schools, or should they stick with what they've been doing?
I think they should stick with what they've been doing.
Yeah, I agree. It's working for them.
Because a little bank like them isn't going to get attention from the top of the class in the top 10 schools. So
that's so true. And what are some pros and cons of SG Cowan's approach to recruiting on the campus? I think a pro is you get recruits when they're the most excited and enthusiastic.
Yeah.
But I guess a con would be they don't know necessarily what they're doing in a way. They're not really as experienced, which could be a good thing too, because then you can kind of mold them into what you want.
Yeah. Totally.
Okay. Do you think that the associates are the best people to send to the campuses for recruiting?
I do.
I think maybe like an HR person and an associate together.
Yeah. Yeah, because they kind of bring different perspectives of the company.
Yeah.
And really, their campus recruiting is just really to fill out any possible candidates. So it's not, you kind of want a big pool. You don't necessarily want like senior partner or senior associates going, or senior bankers.
Yeah, but someone who probably like knows what the actual job is, I think.
Mom?
Yeah, I guess that's why it would be beneficial to have an HR person and one of the associates.
Yeah.
Of each.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so then the next question was, what about sending more senior bankers? But we just talked about that. What do you think of the self-selection process? What types of people will most likely self-select? I don't remember reading about a self-selection process.
I was just going to say that. I don't remember self-selection.
So I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that.
Let's see, self-select. Team captains would make a very short formal presentation and allow a substantial amount of time to informally talk. This would help self-select students who really wanted to be prepared for first round interviews by knowing more about the firm.
Where they could go ahead of time and like talk to somebody and learn more about it. Is that what it's talking about?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like it's talking about.
Oh.
I think
So
if
it
they're
would-
willing to pay their own way and go there, then
Yeah.
if it gives them an advantage, I mean, they were willing to do that. So
Yeah, definitely. It asks what
So
type
they
of
were-
people will mostly self-select. Do you think it's all going to be desperate people that aren't getting offers?
that's true.
Might be.
Since they're not, Goldman Sachs.
It's a
It
good
might
point.
also. So they have to pay their way to be there.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
it's the part I'm thinking of, like they could go and
That
talk to
sounds right.
somebody, and then they had to pay their own way there. And
Yeah. That would be interesting. That would be interesting. All right. Anything else about the
Self-starters.
self-selection process?
Nope.
All right. Part 4 is the Super Saturday. So what are the objectives of the Super Saturday?
To narrow down candidates
Yeah.
and make decisions on who they're going to offer.
Yeah. Conduct the interviews and then narrow it down.
So
It asks, do any of the objectives conflict with one another? I don't think they conflict. They work hand in hand.
yeah.
I guess maybe because they're trying to hurry through it all.
Yeah. That's a good
That
point.
would be a bad thing, I think. But I don't know. I think you can kind of get an idea about a person in the first, for sure 30 minutes.
Yeah.
yeah, the only
also-
thing I think might be conflicting is how one of you guys said, like the first person you interview, you're probably gonna like a lot more than like the last person because you're exhausted. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that
definitely.
could be kind of a issue, but I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
true.
Yeah, that's a good point. If they were to somehow change from a Super Saturday to a few days, that would kind of get rid of that
Yeah.
negative aspect. So
Yeah, that's true. And what kind of information do you think that the SG Cowan gains from the candidates during the process of the Super Saturday process?
What kind of information?
Yeah.
will they just learn more about, their probably more about their interpersonal skills and I don't know, and everything they're asking about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a weird question.
Yeah.
I mean, everything really, because the people that do the Super Saturday interviewing, that's not the same people that went to recruit on campus, right?
No, I don't think it
No,
was.
I think it was different.
it's
So
not.
these people that are interviewing during Super Saturday are kind of hearing all of it for the first time. I'm sure, maybe they have little notes about them, but not really much, I would imagine, because it's just a
Yeah.
really quick on-campus interview. So,
Yeah.
and that's actually the next question asks, do you think there would be better ways to structure the on-campus interviewing and recruiting?
Maybe start more of the interviewing process on campus.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think that could be beneficial. Maybe make the Super Saturday not quite so intense, but then too, we read about that having your pool of people is a bigger pool is better than a smaller pool of people.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, All All right, and then the final question for that part is, what are the pros and cons for the Super Saturday approach? I think we already talked
Didn't
about
we
a lot
already?
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about how, yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a repetitive question, but we talked about how it's just long.
Mm.
It's intensive, so I think they would be able to make decisions well. It's just a lot of candidates to go through, so it makes for a long day. All right, so we're going to move on to the final part now, and it says, what is the difference between recruiting and hiring?
Isn't recruiting just getting people to apply, basically?
Yeah, that's what it seems like to
Hiring.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's
I
saying,
think
like,
recruiting.
yeah, go ahead, Nate.
Sorry, I think recruiting is all about you go in looking for a specific person, skill set, or I guess a pool of specific skill sets and attributes in people, where hiring is whether they have those or not, you know.
Yeah, I think recruiting is kind of the process as a whole, you know, from finding the candidates and going through the interview process and narrowing it down. And then I think of hiring as more the final step of it, where the job is offered and they come into the organization.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Anybody have anything else to say?
Do we have any type of writing assignment or anything?
Well, we should probably start working on our next one. It's hard though, because like it's kind of weird how the doohickey is laid out, because we have to start this week writing for these next 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I think we could agree that, let's see, this week is recruiting and hiring. Next week is career development and training. And then motivation and safety is week 8.
So we'll just use those 3 as the problem, because obviously they're there.
Yeah, some right. So maybe next week we could just come with some suggestions for solutions for them, for those.
Okay.
If we can maybe each come up with 1 or 2 for each in case we duplicate. And then we can decide on final ones.
Yeah,
Does that sound
sounds
good?
good.
So we can each maybe come
That
up with
sounds good.
2 solutions for each problem. And then we
Okay.
can go over them next week.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, so Brig will take his turn next week since he bailed out on us for this week. But I think I'll still just post the link to our video, right? So that our instructor knows we did it. But then I just won't do the discussion leader, since I didn't really plan to be the discussion leader. I won't do the assignments. I'll save that for another time. And then we'll just, this was a
so you only have to do 2 discussion leaders.
Yeah,
total?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So each student in the group only has to do 2 discussion leader assignments throughout the semester. Yeah, 2 weeks of the assignments. So he said, you know, for some groups we'll have to be a discussion leader, or, you know, something more than that. But to actually have to do the assignments, we only have to do it twice a week, or twice a semester. Sorry.
That's good.
Good to know.
Yep. So, all right. Well, if you guys don't have anything else,
no,
call it a wrap.
Just thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Making that Google Hangouts is really hard. I got your back on that anytime. All right. You guys have a good week then.
Okay. See you guys.
See you later. Bye.